The bustling city streets teemed with life as pedestrians hurried past vendors, musicians, and street performers, each caught in their own world. Among the chaos, a small figure stood out, a young girl, no older than 9, with tangled hair and patched clothes, cradling a violin that looked nearly as worn as she did. Her name was Elena, and every day she positioned herself at the corner of Maple and 7th, a place where the foot traffic was heavy. Tiny hands trembled as she raised her bow, her fingers finding the strings with a familiarity that contrasted sharply with the uncertainty in her eyes. She closed them briefly, taking a deep breath before letting the first notes drift into the air. The melody that escaped was hauntingly beautiful. It floated above the noise of the street, weaving through the din of car horns and hurried conversations. Some people slowed, pausing to listen, while others rushed by without a second glance. A few dropped coins or crumpled bills into the tattered case at her feet. Elena didn't look up. She couldn't. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. "Keep playing, sweetheart. Play like your life depends on it." And it did. Elena's life had not always been this hard. She could still remember the warmth of their small apartment, the scent of her mother's cooking, and the sound of her father's laughter as he danced clumsily to her violin playing. But those memories felt like dreams now, distant and fragile. A year ago, her father had died in a construction accident. He had been the family's sole provider, and without him, their lives had unraveled. The landlord evicted them within months, and her mother, who worked long hours cleaning offices, struggled to make ends meet. They moved into a cramped shelter, and Elena began playing her violin on the streets to help earn whatever she could. Her violin had been her father's parting gift. He had saved for months to buy it, calling it her ticket to the stars. Though it was old and worn, it was Elena's most cherished possession, and she treated it with reverence. But the streets were harsh. People weren't always kind. Some sneered at her, accusing her of being a beggar, while others ignored her completely. Still, Elena played because she knew that every coin she earned meant food on the table and a little less worry in her mother's eyes. One chilly autumn afternoon, Elena was playing Vivaldi's Winter when a tall man in a gray overcoat stopped a few feet away. He stood motionless, his piercing blue eyes fixed on her. Elena noticed him out of the corner of her eye, but kept playing, her fingers moving deftly across the strings. The man's expression was unreadable, but there was something about his presence that made her uneasy. When the piece ended, the man stepped forward and dropped a $20 bill into her case. Elena's eyes widened in disbelief. $20 was more than she usually made in a day. "Thank you, sir," she said softly, her voice tinged with both gratitude and suspicion. The man smiled faintly. "You're very talented," he said, his voice deep and measured. "Where did you learn to play like that?" "My father taught me," Elena replied, clutching her violin protectively. The man nodded thoughtfully. "What's your name?" "Elena." "Well, Elena, my name is Henry Grayson." He handed her a business card. "I'm a music producer. If you're interested, give me a call. I think you have a gift, and I'd like to help you develop it." Elena stared at the card, unsure of what to say. Henry's offer sounded too good to be true. She had heard stories of people who took advantage of kids like her. Could she trust him? "I'll think about it," she said cautiously, tucking the card into her pocket. Henry smiled again, as if sensing her hesitation. "Take your time. I'll be in town for the next few weeks." With that, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. That evening, Elena showed the card to her mother as they huddled together in their tiny corner of the shelter. Her mother examined it carefully, her brow furrowed with concern. "Do you think he's serious?" Elena asked, her voice filled with a mixture of hope and doubt. Her mother sighed. "I don't know, sweetheart. There are kind people in the world, but there are also those who take advantage. We have to be careful." Elena nodded, though disappointment gnawed at her. She wanted to believe that Henry was genuine, that someone saw value in her music beyond the coins tossed into her case. For the next few days, she continued playing on the streets, but her thoughts kept drifting back to Henry's offer. Finally, after much deliberation, her mother suggested they meet him in a public place to learn more. The following Saturday, Elena and her mother met Henry at a small cafe near the park. He greeted them warmly and offered to buy them lunch, but her mother politely declined. As they sat at a corner table, Henry explained his background. He had worked in the music industry for over 20 years, helping young talents refine their skills and launch their careers. "I'm not offering a shortcut," Henry said, his tone serious. "You'll have to work hard, but I believe you have something special, Elena. With the right guidance, you could do great things." Her mother remained wary. "And what do you get out of this?" she asked bluntly. Henry didn't flinch. "I'm a businessman, so yes, I see potential for profit, but I also love music. I believe in nurturing talent, and Elena's playing moved me in a way I haven't felt in years." Elena listened intently, her heart pounding. She glanced at her mother, who was deep in thought. Finally, her mother nodded. "We'll give it a try, but if anything feels wrong, we walk away." "Agreed," Henry said with a smile. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Henry arranged for Elena to take lessons with a renowned violin instructor, a kind woman named Mrs. Patel. At first, Elena was intimidated by the elegant studio and the polished students who practiced there, but Mrs. Patel quickly put her at ease. "You have raw talent, my dear," Mrs. Patel said after their first lesson, "but talent alone isn't enough. We'll work on your technique and expand your repertoire." Elena threw herself into her lesson, practicing for hours each day. Henry visited frequently, offering encouragement and occasionally bringing small gifts, new strings for her violin, sheet music, and even a sturdy case to replace her old one. As her confidence grew, so did her passion for music. She began to dream of performing on grand stages, of sharing her melodies with the world. 6 months later, Henry arranged for Elena to perform at a local charity event. It was her first time playing for an audience beyond the streets, and she was both excited and terrified. The venue was a small theater, its stage bathed in warm light. As Elena stepped into the spotlight, her hands trembled. She glanced at the crowd, searching for her mother's face. When she found it, smiling and full of pride, she took a deep breath and began to play. The notes poured out of her violin, filling the room with a depth of emotion that silenced the audience. She played with a vulnerability and passion that came from her heart, drawn from the struggles and joys of her young life. When she finished, the room erupted into applause. Elena felt a rush of exhilaration, her fears melting away. Over the next year, Elena's life transformed. She performed at more events, gaining recognition and earning enough money to move out of the shelter with her mother. Henry became not just her mentor, but a trusted friend, guiding her career and helping her navigate the complexities of the music world. But Elena never forgot where she came from. She often returned to the streets where she had once played, not to perform, but to give back. She donated her earnings to shelters and started a program to provide music lessons to underprivileged children. One day, as she walked past her old corner on Maple and 7th, she saw a little boy with a battered guitar, strumming clumsily but with determination. Elena knelt beside him, offering a gentle smile. "Keep playing," she said, placing a $20 bill in his case. "Play like your life depends on it. You never know who might be listening." The boy looked up at her, his eyes wide with gratitude and wonder. As Elena walked away, her violin case slung over her shoulder, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her journey had come full circle, and she knew that music, her father's ticket to the stars, had truly changed her fate.